Welcome to the Farthest Times Fireside Chat. My name is Caesar Williams. I am the Artistic Director of the Farthest Time Festival, and it is my joy and honor to welcome today Season 13 playwright Lisa Rosetta Strum. Lisa, welcome to the Fireside Chat.
Hello, 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 hello.
Ah, yes. Well, your play, by the way,
Yes.
is in this year's 10-minute festival, and I have so many questions I want to ask you about the piece. It's so
Okay.
wonderful. I guess I just want to start off by saying what I really enjoyed about your pieces. I love pieces that are two-handers,
Mm-hmm.
and people are coming from different points of view
Mm-hmm.
and different perspectives,
Mm.
but you could see both points of view. You can agree with both. They're both right. They're both wrong.
Yes.
Um, it's just kind of this thing where you just kind of are ping ponging back and forth, and you care about both characters. Like this,
Yeah.
they're written in such a way. It's funny. It's
Mhm.
moving. It's a love story. I guess we could say.
Yeah.
You know, it's a love story. So please let
Yes.
me. I guess my first question is, what made you write? By the way.
Okay. Well, first, I'm so happy to be here and thank you. I'm so excited and I'm so glad that you got all of that. That means, yes, it's on the page. I think that
Yes,
every right wants to know that they put what they wanted to put on the page.
it is
Um,
there.
so great question. So there's a couple different influences that I had. First
Hmm.
was obviously the pandemic. We were housed. We didn't know what was going to happen. People were stuck together. Sometimes not by choice. Most of the time, not by choice. Sometimes because of choice. People were having deep, thoughtful, meaningful conversations. People who have been friends for years became closer. Some people fell apart.
Hmm.
Some roommates became lovers for circumstance. Some marriages fell apart. But just this intimacy that was created by the pandemic, I think people just let their guard down and just really wanted to be seen and really wanted to connect. And I think that was happening across the board. And so the idea of people talking honestly and openly, unapologetically, was really important to me. And it's almost as if I wanted people to have this view, this voyeuristic view of what's happening during quarantine. And like out of all the millions of places in the world, like people get like a little slice
Yes.
of two people. I was also watching just a ton of YouTube videos and influencers on a number of different topics. Um, a lot about identity, sexual identity, relationships, and the complexity of how, because our society is really being more inclusive and people are being more self identifying, how those lines are being blurred more and more. But those blurred lines are also coming up against people whose lines are not blurred.
Yeah.
And so we get this
Yes. Exactly.
energy of like people's ideologies coming face to face. And I think it's okay when it's someone, when it doesn't include you, but when someone's ideology wants to include you and you haven't really thought about it and you're confronted with it, you never know what's
Yeah.
going to come out your mouth, and you never know how you're going to accept it and how it's going to land on you. And so um, that was really fascinating to me, and was also fascinating people's different perspectives,
Yes.
because depending on what the conversation was, or even regardless of what the conversation was, there was always a right, there was always a wrong, and if you didn't agree, you were a horrible person.
Yep.
If you if you agree, if you could see both sides, you were kind of shady or couldn't be trusted. And again, if you were wrong, people told you were wrong, and then they tried to spend most of the time trying to convince you of why you were wrong. And so I thought, wow, we're really losing the ability to have nuanced, open,
Hmm.
complicated, difficult conversations. And is there really a wrong? I think there is, within reason, of course. But I think that perspective is something that we are losing a hold of. And I felt that it was really important that these two people who love each other, who know each other, that their perspectives get respected, regardless of whether or not you liked it, agreed with it or not, but that you had to hear it and understand where they were coming from.
You're
And so
right.
from that perspective, those many perspectives, I said, you know what, I want to see how two people deal with this. And two Black people, especially. I mean, because I wonder, conversations like this in our community don't, I think they happen a lot behind closed doors. I don't really see them happening too much in person. I don't always see that happening in our community. I think that we're still very black and white when it comes to a lot of things.
Oh yeah. Even
Um,
in theater, I could tell you last season we had a play that was kind of maybe not exactly politically correct, or
yeah,
at least not in our particular progressive bubble would be
yeah,
considered politically incorrect.
yeah,
And the pushback on this play, and this play wasn't saying that the other side was right. It
yeah,
just had the audacity to give a voice to the
yes,
other side, and I could see how people were just so unaccustomed to hearing another perspective being
yes,
respected. We've just kind of gotten these silos where if it's not an echo chamber, then something's wrong. And so that's the
yes,
one thing I liked about your piece. That it's again, it's another a chance for us to see that someone can think differently than we think, and we can still love them.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
What made you decide to direct?
Well, I think it's a natural progression, and I think all actors are natural directors. Well, maybe that's not always true. I think
It's not.
that's true.
They
Caesar,
think they are.
I have to think they think they are. But I'm sure, Caesar, you can attest to this when you're in a process and all of a sudden you start seeing things from different
hmm
angles. Like, I don't know if I would do it that way, or like, I
Yeah,
I
you
don't
start to
know.
get a bigger picture.
You start to see a bigger picture, and you start to just have more articulated ideas about the piece as a whole. You
Yeah,
start to think about casting. Like,
yeah.
I've been in situations like, I wouldn't have casted me in this, or
Why am
like,
I
why
here?
am I here?
I'm
Like,
sorry. You should fire me and get
like,
somebody else.
well, I didn't say that, but I was thinking it, or I was like, well, I don't think I would have done that. But then you just start having all these thoughts, and I think I've directed in the past, working with young kids, working with college students.
hmm
I directed somewhat in undergrad as well, so I've always directed in some capacity.
Okay, so it
Um,
wasn't new for you.
no, it really wasn't new. I think I started putting it out into the universe that I wanted to start directing more because I really enjoyed it. I love that aspect of storytelling. I think you just have more insight and more control as a
hmm
director, but in a good way. I think that I've learned not to always put myself in this situation, but learning how to communicate to another actor how to get to where this character needs to go. And I
Mm.
think that really excited me and it thrilled me. And when I saw that it was working, that also motivated me. And so I just think it's another way of being a storyteller. It's another way of sitting back and sort of creating the journey that people in the audience are going to see, and really trying to put on the stage what the playwright has put on the page.
I think the last question I have
Yeah.
is if you were not doing what you were doing now,
Hmm.
like what would you do? Like for me, I would be a sanitation worker.
Really?
Yes, yes. I just love.
Oh, goodness. I think I'd be a therapist.
Why?
Um, I think it's connected to acting in some way. I'm just always been very curious about how people think and what motivates people.
Wow.
And people already normally come to me when they have a problem or some kind of issue. But I really like helping people that way. I've always been curious, and maybe it's just me being nosy, but that could really be the real reason. But there's something about helping people sort of navigate their life choices and being able to
Mm.
help people see things that they don't see, which I think is also connected to
Acting and directing.
writing and acting and directing, right? So I think that's a part of that. So yeah, if I wasn't doing anything in the arts, I would be a psychologist. I would be an analyst, or that
Oh,
I'd be helping people some way, directing people in some capacity.
wow. Well,
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us on the Fireside Chat with the Fire this time. Thank you so much for honoring us with your play and your
Oh,
work. And I would say welcome to the Fire this time family, but you've been family since the very beginning.
just welcome me home,
That's
Caesar.
right. Welcome home. Welcome
Thank
home.
you, thank you.
Yes. And again, to everyone watching, the Fire this time Festival Season 13 will happen in January of 2022. We look forward to seeing you all at the theater. Thank you and good night.
Good night. Yay.